the companies have more and more power to decide what can stay up and what must be taken down. They take advantage of our desire for ease, our resistance to effort, our resistance to challenge, and I think over time, if we're not already there, it will interfere with our ability to have critical thinking. It interferes potentially with our ability to be challenged. To the extent that we're limiting expression, we're also limiting challenge. We're limiting effort. People shouldn't be surprised if in the future there's less information available to them, less edgy, less provocative information available online. And I think that we will be a poorer society, we'll be poorer societies for it.
We stand for connecting every person, for a global community, for giving everyone in the world the power to share anything they want with anyone.
There are now 3 billion people around the world connected via social media. But who decides what this world is permitted to see?
Controversial commentator Katie Hopkins has been permanently banned from Twitter after breaking the site's hateful conduct policy. Hopkins was suspended for a week in January this year after a series of hateful tweets. The 45-year-old has more than 1 million followers and has tweeted in support of far-right figures such as the English Defence League. Twitter has not confirmed what tweets were responsible for the permanent ban.
But what we're talking about here, Manila and Ben, are statements that might be hateful or incorrect or spiteful or injurious to the soul. I've never heard anything like this in my life. Isn't that the whole purpose of what free speech is about? The marketplace of free ideas? So this has no place in the world of law in terms of what they want to ban.
Facebook, which has 2.6 billion users, brought in nearly $70 billion in advertising revenue last year. The civil rights organizations are counting on major brands to join the temporary boycott to force sweeping changes, including that Facebook stop generating ad revenue from misinformation and harmful content, automatically remove all ads labeled as misinformation or hateful, and automatically flag any extremist content in private groups for human moderators to review.
Our task is to monitor and moderate the user-based content. I help people. I stop the spreading of child exploitation. I have to identify terrorism, have to stop the cyberbullying. Algorithms can't do what we do.
Deep space. Scientists are now seriously considering the possibility of sucking energy out of a black hole. That's right. The thing is so powerful it actually even sucks out light itself, or I guess sucks in, as they say in The Godfather.
Researchers may have found an answer to the age-old question that's been perplexing experts around the world. Can a massive black hole be used as a source of energy? Well, they think the answer is yes. New data published in the journal Nature Physics details how energy can be extracted from rotating black holes, which pull the surrounding space and time, a theory that was first introduced in 1969 by British mathematical physicist Roger Penrose. Penrose suggested that if an object or light were to fall in a rotating black hole's egrosphere, the region outside of the black hole's event horizon, it would be split into 2 parts, one that would be sucked into it, and another that would escape and would gain energy from the black hole's rotation when fleeing. So by sending objects or light toward a rotating black hole, we could get energy back, creating so-called black hole bombs. However, the method has never been independently tested until now. The researchers emulated the testing system created by Russian physicist Yakov Zeldovich in 1971 that could be tested on Earth. The black hole then became rotating cylinders made from material that could absorb energy. The scientists believed that the light waves would be amplified by the cylinder and extract energy. However, in order to become amplified, the light waves would have to be twisted into spirals. Zeldovich assumed that if the cylinder rotates rapidly enough, then the altered wave frequency would then become so low that it would become negative. Positive frequency waves would then be absorbed by the cylinder, losing energy. But at the same time, negative frequency waves would transform this loss and become amplified by the cylinder and extract energy from its rotation, just like the Penrose process. The researchers...
Some of them very likely have planets, and therefore I can imagine civilizations immensely beyond the capabilities of our own.
NASA just announced the discovery of 500 new planets. They're all orbiting other stars.
That's no, is it? It's not on Earth, dude. Well, if there's another thing.
Our place in the universe is relatively quiet. We have an average star orbited by 8 planets, one of which contains us. For every grain of sand on Earth, there's 10,000 stars up in the sky. To be exact, sorta, there's between 10 to the 22 and 10 to the 24 total stars. Let's say that 5% of those stars are like our own sun. That leaves 500 billion sun-like stars. Alright, cool. So let's say that 1 in every 5 of those stars have a planet in the Goldilocks zone, a region around a star that can allow for liquid water, and life as we know it, to exist. That leaves 100 billion Earth-like planets out there. Okay, good. Out of these planets, let's say that 1% of them actually have life show up. Then, every single grain of sand on Earth would then represent an Earth-like exoplanet with potential life. Using this math, there's about 100 billion stars in the Milky Way, meaning that there's over 1 billion Earth-like planets in our galaxy alone.
We are living in the age of a space race. 2 billionaire entrepreneurs are fighting to send us all into space. Elon Musk and SpaceX, Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin, the tortoise in the fable of the tortoise and the hare. The hare took the early lead in the race, but in the end, the tortoise won. The moral of the story is, slow and steady wins the race. It appears SpaceX is ahead.
Liftoff.
In May 2020, SpaceX became the first private company to send humans into orbit by flying 2 NASA astronauts to the International Space Station. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos have slightly different motivations for going to space. Musk believes humans are at risk of becoming extinct because of climate change, the threat of artificial intelligence, or an attack on the planet. So we're more likely to survive if we live on multiple planets. Musk has made it no secret he wants to colonize Mars.
And it's very important that we do so as soon as possible, I think, while the window of opportunity is open. I call upon the public to support this goal.
Bezos has a slightly different motivation for going to space. He believes the Earth is irreplaceable and wants to preserve it for future generations. He wants to tap into the unlimited resources in space, specifically from the moon. There's a lot of ice at the moon's poles which could be mined for fuel to power Blue Origin's space vehicles. Bezos ultimately wants to create something straight out of 70s science fiction: space colonies, large floating settlements holding 1 million people or more that can support animals and plants as well. The ISS looks tiny in comparison.
We can have 1 trillion humans in the solar system, which means we'd have 1,000 Mozarts and 1,000 Einsteins. This would be an incredible civilization.
That's me on the left and Dave Liesma on the right, waving to our crewmates as we did a spacewalk in 1984.
She's made history in space, and now former NASA astronaut Kathy Sullivan has made history at sea. Sullivan successfully journeyed on board high-tech submarine Limiting Factor with pilot Victor Vescovo to descend to the deepest point in our ocean. Their goal, dive deep into the Marianas Trench to explore areas never investigated. The Marianas Trench, about 200 miles southwest of Guam, is the deepest point on Earth, nearly 7 miles below the Pacific Ocean's surface. Their first stop, the Challenger Deep.
One thing I was hoping to achieve for this dive series was continue to expand the number of people that have gone down to the bottom of the ocean. It was shocking to me, no woman had ever been down. And Dr. Kathy Sullivan definitely seems like the right person. She was the first American woman to spacewalk. She has a PhD in ocean-related studies, so she's just the right person.
Control, this is the LF. How do you read?
I read you loud and clear.
The crew made a phone call to astronauts aboard the International Space Station, establishing a remarkable connection from both teams on outer edges of our world. After completing her trip, the 68-year-old Sullivan became the first person to have been in space and at full ocean depth. She tweets, 36 years after my spacewalk, I became the first woman to dive to the deepest known spot in the ocean, the Challenger.